Most drivers expect fresh engine oil to stay golden for thousands of miles. So, when it turns dark, sometimes in as little as 1,000 miles, it can feel like something's wrong. Maybe the oil is breaking down, maybe the engine is wearing out, or maybe the car has a serious mechanical issue brewing. But here's the truth. Black oil doesn't automatically mean bad oil. In many cases, it means the oil is doing exactly what it was designed to do: clean, protect, and carry contaminants safely away from your engine's moving parts. Still, fast darkening oil can also reveal problems that need attention: fuel dilution, excessive blow-by, PCV issues, sludge buildup, or even failing seals. The key is knowing the difference between normal darkening and a warning sign. So, in this video, we're breaking down why oil can turn black so quickly, what's normal, what's not, and what you should do if you see it happening in your car. By the end, you'll know whether your oil is perfectly fine, or if it's trying to tell you something important before a much bigger problem shows up. Let's get started. Number 1, why your oil turns black faster than you think. A lot of drivers believe clean oil should stay bright or golden for thousands of miles. So when it turns dark shortly after an oil change, the immediate reaction is concern. Something must be wrong. But here's the surprising reality. Oil color alone is not a reliable indicator of oil health. In fact, fresh oil can begin darkening almost immediately once it circulates through the engine, and that change can be perfectly normal. Engine oil isn't just a lubricant. It's a cleaning and protection system that works constantly while your engine runs. Every time fuel burns inside the cylinders, tiny particles, carbon, soot, unburned fuel vapors, microscopic metal traces, and residue from normal combustion move through the engine. Some of those contaminants slip past piston rings or valve guides and make their way into the crankcase. The oil's job is to pick up that contamination and suspend it safely so it doesn't stick to internal engine components. That process alone is enough to darken the oil. And depending on the engine type, driving habits, and oil additives used, the color can change quickly, sometimes faster than people expect. Diesel engines, turbocharged engines, direct injection systems, and stop-and-go driving environments tend to darken oil much sooner than old carbureted or naturally aspirated engines. So if your oil turns dark early, don't assume failure. It may simply mean the oil is doing its job. What matters far more than color is the oil's condition, its viscosity, smell, texture, and mileage. Black doesn't equal burned. Black doesn't equal worn out. In most cases, fast darkening is normal. The key is understanding why, so you know when to ignore it and when it's a sign of a deeper problem. Number 2, the role of detergents and dispersants. One of the biggest reasons fresh oil turns black is because modern engine oil is packed with chemical additives, specifically detergents and dispersants. These aren't optional ingredients. They're one of the most important parts of your oil's formula, and without them, engines would sludge up and fail much faster. Detergents work just like laundry soap. They help break down carbon deposits, varnish, and microscopic dirt stuck on internal surfaces. When your engine oil circulates, these detergents scrub away buildup inside the crankcase, pistons, camshaft areas, and oil passages. As they strip away this contamination, the oil naturally darkens because it's carrying all of that dirt in suspension. That's where dispersants come in. Their job is to keep contaminants floating, preventing them from clumping together or settling into sludge at the bottom of the engine. Instead of letting carbon or metal particles stick to parts, dispersants hold them evenly throughout the oil until the next oil change removes them permanently. This entire process happens whether you drive 1 mile or 100. And if you switched from cheap oil to a higher quality synthetic, or if the engine wasn't maintained well before you owned it, the oil may turn black even faster because it's cleaning out years of old buildup. So when you pull the dipstick and see dark oil, it doesn't mean the oil failed. It may mean the oil is actively protecting your engine. This is especially true in direct injection and diesel engines, where soot levels are naturally higher, and black oil is completely expected. A good way to think about it is simple. Clear oil isn't always clean, and dirty-looking oil isn't always worn out. Number 3, combustion, soot, and blow-by. Every time your engine fires, fuel burns inside the cylinders. Ideally, that combustion is perfectly clean, but in the real world, it never is. Even modern engines with advanced injection systems produce microscopic soot particles and combustion residue. Some of this soot exits through the exhaust, but a portion slips past the piston rings and valve guides into the crankcase. This process is called blow-by, and it's one of the most common reasons oil darkens quickly. Blow-by happens in every engine, new, old, gas, or diesel. On a healthy engine, it's small and controlled. But because these soot particles are incredibly fine, the oil filter can't trap them. Instead, they remain suspended in the oil, slowly changing its color from amber to brown, then eventually to black. Certain engine types exaggerate this effect. Turbocharged engines, direct injection engines, and especially diesel engines produce far more soot. That's why it's completely normal for the oil in a diesel, or a heavily used turbo engine, to turn dark almost immediately after a fresh oil change. Color change alone doesn't mean something is wrong. However, excessive blow-by can also be a warning sign. If oil darkens extremely fast and you notice symptoms like increased oil consumption, blue smoke from the exhaust, rough idle, or fuel smell in the oil, it may indicate worn piston rings, stuck injectors, or poor combustion efficiency. Under normal conditions though, darkening oil simply means the oil is collecting soot as intended, rather than letting it settle inside the engine. It's doing the dirty job, so the engine doesn't have to. So before assuming black oil means failure, remember, blow-by is normal. What matters is how the engine behaves, not just how the oil looks. Number 4, engine heat, oxidation, and thermal breakdown. Even if your engine is running perfectly and combustion is clean, heat alone can darken oil over time. Motor oil works under intense temperature swings, cold starts, highway driving, idling in traffic, towing, and turbo spool cycles. As oil is repeatedly heated and cooled, it goes through a natural chemical process called oxidation. Oxidation happens when oil molecules react with oxygen under high temperature. This slowly changes their structure and darkens the oil's appearance. The darker color doesn't necessarily mean the oil can't protect the engine. It simply means it's been exposed to heat cycles. Turbocharged engines, high compression engines, and vehicles driven in hot climates or heavy stop-and-go traffic will see faster oxidation. The oil spends more time near its upper temperature limits, especially near pistons, turbo bearings, and catalytic converters. As a result, it can darken quickly, even if it's still performing well. Another factor is idling. Engines left running for long periods without airflow over the oil pan build heat without moving much oil. The oil circulates, but the lack of cooling airflow means temperatures rise faster. Over time, this accelerates oxidation and darkening. In more severe cases, if oil is consistently overheated or stays in an engine too long, oxidation can lead to varnish deposits and sludge, thick, sticky residue that blocks oil passages and starves moving parts of lubrication. That's when dark oil becomes more than a cosmetic change. A useful rule: black oil with normal thickness and no burnt smell is usually fine. Black oil that smells burnt or feels gritty needs attention. Heat is unavoidable, and oxidation is part of how oil ages. The key is ensuring the oil isn't pushed past its service life, and that the engine isn't running hotter than it should. Number 5, short trips, fuel dilution, and moisture buildup. If your engine oil gets dark very early, especially in under 1,000 miles, your driving habits may be the reason. Short trips, frequent cold starts, and stop-and-go traffic create one of the most common oil darkening situations: fuel dilution and moisture contamination. When you start a cold engine, some unburned fuel naturally slips past the piston rings and mixes with the oil. Normally, once the engine reaches full operating temperature, that fuel evaporates out of the crankcase ventilation system. But if your trips are short, think 5 to 10 minutes, the engine may never get hot enough for that evaporation to occur. Instead, the fuel remains in the oil, thinning it and affecting its chemical makeup. The result? The oil can darken surprisingly quickly. Moisture behaves the same way. Engines naturally produce condensation during cold starts. Under ideal conditions, heat evaporates that moisture out of the system. But short trips trap it in the oil. When moisture combines with combustion byproducts, it forms acids and deposits that accelerate discoloration. This type of driving also increases soot production, because the engine spends more time in warm-up mode, running richer than normal. that extra carbon ends up suspended in the oil, darkening it even faster. You might notice other signs alongside blackened oil, such as milky residue on the oil cap, condensation, not necessarily coolant, strong fuel smell on the dipstick, rough idle during cold starts, shortened oil life, or faster thickening. The good news? This isn't always a mechanical failure. It's often just a usage pattern. If most of your trips are short, a simple fix is taking the car on an occasional longer drive to fully heat the engine and evaporate moisture and fuel trapped in the oil. Number 6. When fresh oil starts, cleaning the past. Sometimes the reason oil turns black so quickly isn't because something is wrong. It's because, for the first time in a long time, the engine is finally being taken care of. Picture a car that spent years with delayed oil changes, bargain bin oil, or inconsistent maintenance. Inside that engine, layers of old sludge and varnish slowly built up, coating metal surfaces, filling small oil passages, and sticking behind piston rings and valve covers. The engine didn't fail, but it wasn't clean either. Then comes the moment someone finally decides to do things right. They switch to a high-quality synthetic or to the correct manufacturer-approved formula. Fresh oil full of modern detergents flows through the engine, and immediately those additives start breaking down the old buildup. The oil begins dissolving microscopic layers of sludge that had been sitting untouched for years. As that material lifts into suspension, the color changes fast, sometimes within the first few hundred miles. Many people panic at this point, assuming the car is burning oil or something is failing. But in reality, the oil is doing exactly what it was designed to do: clean. Engines that lived through long intervals, short trips, or poor quality oil changes often experience this during the first proper service cycle. Sometimes mechanics even recommend more frequent oil changes during this phase, not because the engine is damaged, but because the cleaning process is happening quickly, and the oil is collecting decades of buildup. Once the engine stabilizes and the internal surfaces are clean again, oil often lasts longer before darkening. So, when fresh oil goes dark fast after improving maintenance, it doesn't always mean bad news. Sometimes it means your engine is finally catching up after years of neglect. Number 7. When a PCV problem makes oil go dark fast. Sometimes oil doesn't turn black quickly because of driving habits or cleaning action. Sometimes it's because the engine is breathing in a way it shouldn't. Every modern engine relies on a system called the PCV system, or positive crankcase ventilation, to manage pressure and recycle vapor inside the crankcase. When it's working properly, the PCV valve pulls unwanted gases and moisture out of the crankcase and routes them back into the intake to be burned safely. It keeps the engine clean, prevents sludge, and helps the oil last longer. But when that system gets clogged or the valve sticks open or closed, everything changes. Pressure can build up inside the crankcase and force blow-by gases, filled with carbon, soot, and oil vapor, back into the oil. The result is oil that darkens far faster than normal. Sometimes you'll even notice a fuel or exhaust smell on the dipstick. In engines with worn piston rings or tired seals, the PCV system becomes even more important. If it can't relieve crankcase pressure, those gases push oil past seals, creating leaks. Meanwhile, the extra contamination circulating in the crankcase accelerates oxidation and thickens the oil. It can make the engine run rough, increase oil consumption, or create visible smoke under acceleration. And here's the ironic part: a failing PCV system is small, inexpensive, and often overlooked, but it can make the engine's oil look old and dirty almost immediately after a change. Once the PCV problem is fixed, many drivers notice a huge difference. Oil stays cleaner longer, fuel smell fades, idle smooths out, and consumption drops. So, when oil turns black unusually fast and nothing else seems wrong, the PCV system is one of the smartest places to look first. Number 8. Why diesel engines turn oil black almost immediately. If you own a diesel, you already know this. The oil can turn pitch black shockingly fast, sometimes within minutes of starting the engine after a fresh oil change. To someone used to gasoline engines, it looks alarming. But in the world of diesels, this isn't just normal, it's expected. The reason goes back to how diesel combustion works. Diesel engines run at higher compression and ignite fuel through pressure rather than spark. That process naturally produces soot, far more than a gasoline engine ever will. And even though modern diesels have filters, injectors, turbos, and emission systems designed to reduce that soot, some amount will always slip past the piston rings and into the crankcase. As soon as fresh oil begins circulating, it starts trapping that soot, which quickly changes its color. But diesel oil isn't just designed to lubricate. It's formulated specifically to carry soot in suspension, so it doesn't stick to internal surfaces or turn into sludge. That means the darkening isn't a sign the oil has failed. It's a sign the oil is working as intended. Some diesel owners new to maintenance think dark oil means they need more frequent oil changes. But in many cases, that's not true. Diesel oil often still has plenty of remaining protection, even when it looks black. What matters far more is mileage, viscosity, smell, and how the engine is running, not color alone. Of course, if the oil becomes thick, gritty, or smells burnt, that's a different story and may point to wear, injector trouble, overheating, or excessive blow-by. But clean-looking oil in a diesel? That's rare. Black oil isn't a warning sign in a diesel engine. It's simply part of the design. Number 9, when oil quality or the wrong viscosity makes it break down faster. Sometimes fast darkening oil isn't about the engine at all. It's about the oil itself. Not all motor oil is created equal. Some oils are engineered to withstand high temperatures, resist oxidation, and maintain their protective film under stress. Others break down more quickly, especially when exposed to heat, turbochargers, aggressive driving, or long idle times. If someone uses a bargain brand oil or one that doesn't meet the manufacturer's specifications, the oil may start to oxidize sooner. As oxidation happens, the oil thickens, its additives degrade, and its color darkens, sometimes far earlier than expected. The oil may still look like it's just dark from use, but chemically, it's aging faster than a proper oil would under the same conditions. Viscosity also plays a role. Engines are designed to run on a specific oil thickness. If oil that's too thin is used, it may shear down or degrade faster, especially in engines with high heat or tight tolerances. If the oil is too thick, it may trap more contaminants or struggle to circulate properly when cold, leading to faster discoloration and wear. Synthetic oils generally stay stable longer than conventional oils because they're engineered to resist breakdown. That's why many modern engines require synthetic formulas, not for marketing hype, but because newer engines run hotter, rev higher, and demand more from the oil. So when oil turns black quickly and nothing else seems wrong, the issue may simply be the quality or type of oil being used. Switching to a manufacturer-approved, high-quality oil can slow that discoloration and maintain better protection over time. The takeaway is simple: the right oil matters, and using the wrong one can make it look old long before it's actually worn out. Number 10, when black oil is a warning instead of normal. Most of the time, dark oil is harmless. It's just doing its job. But there are situations where black oil means something more serious is happening under the hood. The challenge is knowing the difference. Because while color on its own doesn't diagnose anything, color combined with texture, smell, or symptoms can reveal a deeper problem. For example, if the oil feels gritty when rubbed between your fingers, that means contaminants aren't being held in suspension. They're circulating through the engine. Grit can come from metal wear, carbon chunks, or sludge breaking loose. That's not normal, and it can accelerate engine wear if ignored. Another warning sign is burnt smell. Healthy oil may darken, but it shouldn't smell scorched. A burnt odor suggests the oil has been overheated, possibly from a failing cooling system, overworked turbocharger, clogged PCV system, or oil that has stayed in the engine well past its usable life. A different kind of red flag is when oil turns dark while also becoming thick, sticky, or tar-like. That points to oxidation and sludge formation, and sludge can block small oil passages, starve camshafts of lubrication, and eventually lead to engine failure. Then there's the opposite scenario, when black oil also becomes thin and runny, almost watery. That usually means fuel dilution, often caused by misfires, stuck injectors, cold short-trip driving, or poor combustion. Fuel-thinned oil can't protect bearings or cylinder walls and can destroy an engine quietly over time. So, while black oil alone is often nothing to worry about, black oil paired with burnt smell, unusual texture, rapid viscosity change, or engine symptoms, is a message worth listening to. In those cases, the oil isn't just dirty, it's warning you before something expensive happens. Number 11. How to tell if the oil is still healthy without guessing. Since oil color alone doesn't tell the full story, the real question becomes, how do you know whether the oil is still protecting your engine or if it's time to change it? The answer is surprisingly simple. Pay attention to the way the oil behaves, not just how it looks. A good place to start is with the dipstick. Instead of just checking the level, take a second to observe the oil's texture and smell. Healthy oil, even when darkened, will still feel smooth and slick between your fingers. It won't feel gritty, pasty, or sticky. It also shouldn't smell burnt. Fresh oil has a neutral or slightly chemical scent. Burnt oil smells sharp and smoky, almost like overheated metal. Another indicator is thickness. Oil should keep its viscosity, meaning it shouldn't suddenly feel watery or excessively thin. When oil thins prematurely, it usually means fuel dilution or overheating. Thicker than normal oil can mean oxidation or sludge formation. Pay attention to how the car runs too. If the engine becomes noisier, develops a shaky idle, or starts consuming oil between changes, that can signal the oil is breaking down early, or that an underlying issue is affecting how clean the oil stays. Finally, consider mileage and environment. Someone who drives long highway trips may safely stretch oil longer than someone who only does cold, short-trip commutes. Your owner's manual gives a baseline interval, but real-world conditions matter just as much. The goal isn't to obsess over color, it's to monitor the oil like a living system. When you do, the oil will tell you what's happening long before the engine does. Number 12, what you should do when your oil turns black too quickly. If you notice your oil turning black faster than expected, the worst thing you can do is panic or ignore it. Instead, think of it as feedback. Your engine is telling you something, and your job is simply to respond correctly. The first step is making sure you're using the right oil. Check the owner's manual or the manufacturer's certified spec. Modern engines, especially turbocharged and direct injection models, are designed to run on very specific oil formulas. Using the wrong viscosity or a low-quality product can speed up breakdown and discoloration. Next, take an honest look at your driving habits. If you only take short trips where the engine never reaches full operating temperature, the oil will darken faster because it's carrying unburned fuel and moisture. In those situations, shorter oil intervals or occasional longer drives can make a noticeable difference. It's also smart to ensure the PCV system is functioning correctly. A simple stuck valve can dramatically increase blowby and contamination. Replacing it is inexpensive and can restore normal oil behavior quickly. If the car has high mileage and you're transitioning from poor maintenance to proper care, be patient. Sometimes fast darkening oil is simply cleaning old buildup and will level out after a couple of change cycles. Finally, use your senses. If the oil smells burnt, feels gritty, thickens like syrup, or thins like fuel, don't wait. Change it and investigate the cause. But if it's dark and still smooth, normal thickness, and the engine sounds and feels healthy, then it's likely doing exactly what it's supposed to do. In the end, clean-looking oil isn't always healthy, and black oil isn't always a problem. Knowing the difference is what protects your engine. So, now you know, oil turning black isn't the mystery most people think it is. Sometimes it's a sign of a healthy engine doing exactly what it should. Other times, it's a clue that something underneath needs attention before it becomes expensive. The key is not guessing, but understanding what the oil is trying to tell you. Check it regularly, use the right oil, pay attention to how your engine behaves, and don't rely on color alone. Do that, and your engine will stay cleaner, run smoother, and last far longer than most drivers ever realize. Thanks for watching. Take care of your car, and it'll take care of you. See you in the next one.